Hey there, everybody. I just wanted to talk about clarity as it relates to predictability and consistency. So I was working in a classroom, and there seemed to be an understanding about no use of inappropriate language as being a rule. And um, I could tell as an observer that the staff was making an effort to enforce that rule. However, the clarity around where the line is for that rule and the tools to use so that you could have a predictable and consistent way to address that rule was lacking. And so, what I saw over and over again that day was a few particular students using profanity. And sometimes the staff would ignore it. Like, one type of ignoring was ignore it as if the student wasn't even there, as if the child wasn't even there. The other type of ignoring it was just talk right through it. Just keep talking to the child and trying to work with the child as if the language wasn't coming out of their mouth. So I'm not trying to argue one side or the other. I'm not trying to say you should have a rule against inappropriate language or you shouldn't have a rule against inappropriate language. I think most people would want a rule about no inappropriate language in a classroom. However, that's besides the point. What I want to talk about today is clarity. And I want to talk about the understanding of what are the rules you're choosing, and where are those lines. So is it okay to swear? Is it okay to use inappropriate language? Is it ever okay to use inappropriate language or not? Here's my argument. If it's a rule, make it a rule. So if it's going to be a rule, then that means it's a rule every time, because we're talking about a brain that needs predictability, and predictability comes from consistency. And if it's a rule that's only sometimes talked about but not all the time talked about, and there's no consistent way of follow through or a consistent pattern that the brain can pick up on to say, oh, this is a line that I'm not supposed to cross, then we can't expect kids to come around and understand that. So if you're going to have a rule, and let's say it's inappropriate language, if you're going to have a rule about inappropriate language, then there's no use of inappropriate language at any time, which means anybody, any adult that hears inappropriate language needs to have a way to let the kid know that that's a line that they crossed. So if you have multiple adults in a setting and multiple adults addressing the same issue, then you're going to have a likelihood that consistency is going to be a challenge. And so the way that I deal with that is I use scripts. And so it's not that we want to robotically make everybody say the same thing, but we want people to say as close to the same thing as possible, as close to the same line as possible. So if a child uses the F word, then an adult in the environment can say language check. And if that's what everyone's going to say is language check, and then the response from everyone would be the same, which is, now I'm not going to give you any more of my attention. The same rules that apply after giving a choice when kids are escalated or when kids are in crisis, which is no eyes, no mouth, no body. You want to remove all of yourself at that situation, or at that point in the situation, so that you've now made the line clear. You've said it out loud in a way that can register over time, because remember, we're creating a pattern over time that the brain can then recognize and then react to. And you've taken or you've offered a consequence that the brain can also register, which is, after engagement and a clear line is drawn, you remove all of your engagement. So there is feedback from the environment that the child gets, and it doesn't mean that suddenly the swearing is going to stop. It doesn't mean that if you do this once or twice, you're going to be good to go. What it means is, if we have clarity around a rule, and we have clarity around what to say, and we have clarity around where the line is so that we know when to say it, and we have clarity around what to do after we say it, then the brain can start to recognize that's a line, I'm not supposed to cross the line, and over time, we have the best chance of having children recognize the rule, understand where the line is, and follow the rule. Thanks a lot. I'll be back again with more videos. Have a great one.